Hi, Rich. Nice to meet you. Welcome
Hey,
to the webinar. Thanks for coming.
my pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
to see
How are you today?
they're. I'm good. I'm
Mhm.
good. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good as well. I'm really excited for this webinar. Hope we could share a lot of useful insights to our audience.
Yeah. Happy to. Happy
Yeah.
to. It's been great seeing how MindPal has been growing over the last few months. I think I was in touch with Tam and Tom, Tuan and Tam, when they
Yeah.
were just getting started with the whole project. So it's cool to see how it's growing and evolving. And how long have you been now with the company?
Yeah. We three of us now work together,
Mhm.
and I'm responsible for business and growth. So yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the
Exciting.
support.
My pleasure. My
Okay.
pleasure. I apologize for not being as like on top of it as I usually am. There's just a ton of things going on right now, but I'm glad we were able to make it work.
Thank you. In the meantime, I think we could share this webinar
Okay.
for yeah. It's live on
Uh,
LinkedIn and
well,
our YouTube channel as well as our
sweet.
Facebook group. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Are you going to ask me questions or like I'm open to whatever?
Yeah.
I'm.
So
I can talk for an hour about this stuff, not a problem. So just whatever you want to do.
yeah. So we will go through some topics throughout the webinar, and you can feel free to share any additional insight that you think you could share, and it's interesting for everyone to hear
Okay.
about it. Yeah.
All right. That sounds good.
Okay, I think it's time now. Yeah, actually, I liked this webinar for 10 minutes ago, so that yeah they will feature on our social media. That yeah,
Well, I
and
like it.
everyone know to join.
Very,
So
very clever.
okay, I think we can begin now.
Yeah.
So yeah, hi Nick, thank you so much for joining the webinar. We are really happy to have you here, and throughout this webinar. Uh, I hope that we could share a lot of useful insight for everyone who are curious about how AI is used in LinkedIn content creation as well as in marketing. And I think with
That's right.
your experience with marketing and AI, you could share a lot of insight, youth tips, and every system that you have. So thank you, Nick. Uh, okay. So first, let me okay, Nick Rix, can you tell a little bit more about you for everyone to know?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thanks for having me on the webinar. I've always been a big fan of MindPal. I saw what they were doing from. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you. Could
Okay,
you
great.
hear me?
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. So
Mm.
I've been a big fan of MindPal, seeing what they're doing and building in the space, and so it's just a pleasure to be here. I've been now operating in the AI space pretty much as soon as ChatGPT came live. I'm a content creator, more on the production side of things rather than front of house side of things. So I've owned companies in the past that did media production specifically for real estate, and so I take all that information, all that knowledge, understanding how content needs to be actually created from a strategy perspective, the transformational perspective, and then how it needs to get delivered. Figuring out the back end systems to actually make that work for organizations is what I specialize in. And so I've worked with influencers that have hundreds of thousands of followers. We get millions of impressions a month, hundreds of thousands of downloads on podcasts, and it was up to me to figure out, okay, this is the desired outcome that we want for the business. This is the audience that we have. Now, what kind of content do we need to create? What kind of ideas do we need to produce in order to get the desired outcome? And what are the systems behind it that need to be created in order for us to do that as efficiently as possible and as accurately as possible? And so I thrive in that kind of figuring out the systems on the back end and putting it together. So I developed this thing called the LinkedIn Content Copilot, where I've designed that system but for people on LinkedIn who are tired of trying to figure out how to create copy, who are tired of not knowing what ideas to post next. And I've developed an audience centered system that helps that whole process from idea to publishing and posting, from LinkedIn posts to articles, all in one go. So I'm excited to share whatever. I can share my screen. I can show you the automations I'm using. I can give you a little bit of tidbits into some prompts, not all my prompts because they are proprietary. But yeah, I'm here at your disposal. Whatever. If there are any questions from people on the live feed, just put them on the side. Happy to answer them. I want to make this as valuable for the audiences as possible.
So great to hear, Rick. For everyone who joined this webinar, please feel free to ask Rick about his experience with marketing and content creation for a big organization, and as well as the experience to use AI in marketing. So yeah, today, of course, we will dive in a lot of these topics, but I believe that our audience will have more questions that is really specific in use cases.
Great.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
yeah, as you shared, so you want. So I think first we will dive in like the area of content creation, right? So before um, you work for several big organization, enterprise, and you design the content system. So I think I am wondering like what is the like how you devise those content strategy before and how AI could fit in this content strategy for the
Right.
organization right now. Yeah.
So, correction. I have not necessarily worked for enterprise companies specifically with content creation and marketing. I have either contracted with them or I have worked on them as a consultant basis. And that was through the last 10 years. And so the last year when AI creation came into being, I took all my experience from having contracted with some of these organizations, from like figuring out what the ideal client is, figuring out what is the process, what are the jobs that need to get done in order for transformation to take place that will result in the exchange of money at the end of that useful flow. So I've been employed by Logic. I was employed by a bank once. I was doing content creation for them, but it wasn't anything to do with AI. And it was the worst job I ever had, and I quit after 3 months. So I'm not built to be working at large enterprises. So I just wanted to put that in a caveat. But to answer
Okay.
your question, yeah. To answer your question about, okay, when we look at the back end of any organization, right, whether it's an enterprise level, whether it's medium size, or whether it's small business, or whether it's solopreneur, each one of these four organization types are going to have different requirements for the kind of content that they're needed to be creating. There are going to be multiple different touch points along the content creation flow, depending on what your desired outcomes are and where you're at. So if you're an organization, that's doing 50 million a year, your outputs and who's going to be in touch with the system is going to be very different than someone who's a solopreneur who's just doing it themselves and just wanting to get started and not get lost in the maelstrom of what is content creation. So my first thing that I do is I try and understand, okay, what is the organization? Who are all the people that are need to be invested into making this system work? And then what are the desired outcomes for their content? Do they want to get more subscribers? Do they want to get more followers? Do they want to increase their conversions? What do they want to get more podcast downloads? What do they want to do? And then we look at the current system that they have and understand, okay, where do they start? Where are the inputs? Where are the ideas coming from? And then how are we distributing that content to the appropriate things? And how many team members are involved? And then I deduce and I abstract the most important inflection points along that whole system, and we figure out how we can bring that together without AI. So I go into Miro. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Miro. It's an online user, kind of like a whiteboarding service, similar to Miro or Mural or Figma. That's another popular one. And I delineate, okay, we start over here. Then after this person goes over here. And then after we get this information, we send it over here. And after we do this information, we send it over here. We map out the whole process in an interface like that so that we can understand what is happening to the data. And when I say data, I'm talking about an idea. I'm talking about a piece of copy. I'm talking about an image post. I'm talking about anything that can be moved from one area to another. And then like a date is also a piece of data that we'll need to keep track of, right? And then once we have that flow and understand what that looks like without AI, Then we start talking about, okay, what does this look like with AI? Because AI is not a magic bullet. AI is not going to come in and solve all of our problems just because we put it through ChatGPT, especially when we're talking about processes as insanely complicated as ChatGPT, which is why the most important part of my tech stack, the two most important things, is one, Airtable, because that keeps track of all the data and keeps the tagging intact and make sure the interfaces are there. And then the second most important is the is AI, the input. Specifically, I use the API version of Claude, which helps produce a lot and categorize a lot of the content outputs that I'm getting from my own stuff and that I'm using with my clients as well. So we understand what it looks like without AI. We understand what can be improved, what can be taken out. Then we add AI back in and really measure out, okay, for this one node, for this one important part of the process, how can AI help? And if it can't help, then leave it alone. Don't add AI. Don't mess with it. And if we go to the next point and we go, okay, does AI help with this? We're like, yeah, actually, if we put a prompt, if we could create a prompt that says, okay, if it says, if in the voice note that I put in my Telegram bot, if I mention LinkedIn, or if I mention a blog post, or if I mention a certain post, then it'll categorize it a certain way. And based on that categorization, I can then create a route through a filter that then processes a different set of prompts for the specific voice chat. And that's exactly a use case that I use currently at the moment. And so we go through this step by step to understand how is the best and most efficient way to use AI within the system. And then once we know that, then we start looking at how it all comes together, and then how do we create an interface, specifically an Airtable, that can help delineate all of these things to get the desired out. And we always have the desired outcome in the back of our heads, and not as a fixed state, but as an experiment. Because what you'll learn from AI, I might be getting off track, I'll just end with this. What you'll learn with AI is that it's continuous experimentation. Every time a new model comes out, whether it's Sonnet 3.5 on Claude, whether it's 4.0 with GPT, whether it's different Gemini models with Google, your prompt that you had with the previous model is now going to change the output, because how it is processing that data through the LLM is different than it was before. And so we're continuously changing, continuously iterating in order to get the perfect result. And we'll see, as we get more advanced, we'll need to use less sophisticated prompts, although structuring of prompts is very important. We'll use less money and it'll take less time. And so making sure that we keep those things in check as the process evolves is going to be super important for us to continue to get the desired result that we're looking for and create the transformation that the organization has been designed to create. So if there are any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer. I know that it was a lot.
Yeah, I will track about this and ask you, and ask you throughout the webinar. So as you mentioned, is this the process of defining all the content or all the system for without AI, and what worked first, and then analyze what AI can do the best. So I think could you everyone here would be curious about what are the capabilities of AI that everyone needs to understand now, and the limitation as well. So could you draw out some specific use cases, like maybe in terms of an organization and or a solo influencer who use AI now for marketing effort? Yeah.
I gotcha. So what it can and what it can't do? I think we all know that it's really bad at it's bad at many things, and I'm trying to think through the lens of a solopreneur. It's really bad at creating content if you don't give it the right input, if you don't give it the right context. And a very interesting thing is happening now, where 2 months ago, something that was written by AI would have been totally fine. But if the same thing was written with AI now, it's not fine, because people are becoming really fine-tuned to specific telltales of AI. And the moment somebody thinks that something was created with AI, then there's an immediate distrust. Even though it might help them get the job done, there's this heuristic that we've created that makes it difficult for them to engage and accept it as it is. And so I would say that it's bad at creating content on the first draft if you don't give it specific context. And now it's a tricky question to answer, more so than I thought, because it is so good at so many things at the moment. And it just depends on the use case that you're looking at. I think what holds true still to this day is I see it, and some people might disagree with me with this stance, is that I see AI as a reasoning engine more so than a knowledge database. I use the reasoning capabilities and the output capabilities as a tool to get the desired outcome that I'm looking for. And so I don't rely on it to give me accurate information if I don't provide accurate information first and then tell it exactly what I'm looking for at the end of the day or at the end of the process. I think there are certain functions within using LLMs that are super handy for solopreneurs. And that is transforming content, not necessarily repurposing it, but transforming it into a new use case that can be very handy. So a classic example here is transcripts, right? We're going to record this webinar. We can then take this transcript and we can run it through a series of prompts that we can then use to transform this into either a blog post that you guys can put on your website. We can transform it into multiple different social media posts with the context. Another thing that I can do is help classify and sort things that you put through a system in order to get a certain result. It can also help do a lot of ideation and do hypotheses of certain events or of certain traits that we can then go in and test and make sure. My whole design of the LinkedIn Content Copilot, and that I've just gone back to again and again, is that there needs to be a symbiosis between AI and humans. If there is no, I see it as a dance, right? We come in with a certain idea, and if we're using an LLM as the person who's simply executing on that idea, then we're not going to get the results that we want. We have to understand where it's coming from. It's a friend of mine calls it mechanical sympathy. And having mechanical sympathy with the LLM models, understanding how to ask a question, understanding when we get a response, why is it getting that response? Because of the way that I prompted it, and then what do I need to change in my behavior in order for it to get the result and the response that I'm looking for. Having this continual dance with the model and within the processes that we create is essentially how we're going to discover what it's really good at and what it's not so good at within the context of content creation, because that's how I'm seeing it and that's how I'm looking at it. So I guess to try to sum it up in general, into one point, I see and I use LLMs as reasoning engines for their output, helping me sort through things and helping me get results, but I don't rely on it as a knowledge base that I'm going to ask it questions and expect it to give me high quality answers back.
So does this mean that whenever we create content, is that the process of creating content with AI is start from providing with some knowledge base first, and then it can help us with the reasoning behind. So makes the post more comprehensive.
More comprehensive, and it comes from your ungoogleable information in your head that we can't find on Google. That's not easily accessible, and it takes your unique experience into account when putting together a post. So that's why the primary interface for the system that I created is Telegram. And with the Telegram bot specifically, I just speak into the bot or into the chat interface, and I say, I want to create a LinkedIn post about how today I was feeling really sad because when I looked at my reach and my engagement, it wasn't nearly what I thought it was going to be with the new things that I was trying. But then I remembered that sometimes the algorithm changes, and now I need to put on my big boy pants and then continue going down the road. It's going to take that whole context. It is going to run it through literally 5 or 6 different prompts using my voice, using my previous post, and then create something that is almost publishable, 100% publishable in the interface that I've designed. And so it's not that I'm relying on AI to come up with the ideas that is going to create transformation for my audience without giving it the right context in order to get the transformation that we need.
Okay. Okay. Uh, okay. Could you hear me? I think there is a bit lag between
I
us.
can
I
hear
don't
you.
know. Yeah. Okay. Um. Yeah. I also agree. Sometimes I like the practice that I have right now with AI is um first is repurposing content. For example, after this webinar, I would transcribe my thought about the webinar first, and then it will help. Yeah, it will help me to write some thought and then repurpose it into a recap, and then I would also repurpose this content into different kind of social media platform content as well. So
That's awesome.
the practice that you mentioned is really good. Yeah, it's also applied to a marketer like me as well. Um, so as we also get put in like some specific use case for AI right now, and could you share about the system that you already or you already see an organization adopt, or you help any like organization before, as well as a small team who just designed the specific like AI system for them.
Yeah, sure. So I'm working with a client right now in the Netherlands, and we are creating a custom content machine for their podcast. They do a podcast a week, and from this podcast, they have very specific output that they're looking to get. Um, and they're desperate for a way to have human input in the process. So, and they have multiple people whose voice they need to be able to emulate throughout the process when they're getting a certain transcript, right? So there isn't one software that can get all of these jobs done and more on the market right now. There's something like a Cast Magic, but Cast Magic, you just upload the audio file and then it runs it through a standard set of prompts, and you get those outputs, and you can copy those prompts and put them wherever you want to put them. But what's different about the system that we've created is they put in the audio file, it transcribes the audio, and then we can get 6 different LinkedIn posts in 3 different voices while calling vector databases with unique and expert information. Information or insight for a specific topic, and then create different LinkedIn posts based on these variables. And we can extract specific quotes or specific ideas from a specific speaker in order to create these unique LinkedIn posts, right? And what this does is, instead of them now needing to have multiple different prompts in Cast Magic, there's no way for them to run a vector database to get specific insights into this process. And then once we have all of these outputs for LinkedIn specifically, we can then schedule them directly onto LinkedIn without needing to necessarily copy and paste. Unless they want to tag somebody, then they do have to copy and paste it. But any other posts we can run automatically, and in addition, create images for the outputs as well, depending on what they're looking for. In addition, we create very specific outputs for a blog post that come in different sections that we can then automatically post to their Webflow webpage as well after they've approved it and said, yes, this is good to go. And then, of course, from there, we can do even more. We can build a CRM into that system that vets specific not audience members, guests, and then sends them swipe copy of the podcast that was created. Or so there's so many things that we could do with AI that evolve with the use case with the specific organization, because I say every organization's content system is like a fingerprint. If you rely on SaaS products right now, you're going to have 6 different SaaS products for your content creation, versus being able to design everything into one. And then as the fingerprints change over time, the system that gets created can mold with these changes as well. And that has never been able to been done before, especially for small to medium-sized organizations who don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest in, building their own software essentially.
Oh, okay, sure. So we have mentioned some use case like um, transcript from a webinar, postcast, and ideation to hypothesis, and social media content creation. Um, I think we can also mention what about blog posts, like some long form content and newsletter,
For
like
sure.
SEO blog post, yeah, newsletter. Could you share any use case about it?
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I built into the system, the LinkedIn Content Copilot, is you can
Mm.
create a blog post based on the voice note that you create, and the more content that you give it, the more robust and the more valuable it's going to be. So what I've done is built a system that takes the voice note, and the more you give it, like I just said, the more it can use. That runs an internet search that looks for certain themes that are applicable for the voice note that you've created. It returns 6 or 7 different articles that have been rated as most relevant. It scans those articles for ideas around this to support your core thesis of the blog post, and then it also does a
Mm.
search on all of your previous blog posts that you've created for your audience. So it'll go through all of the relevant data for a blog post, return the URL of your previous blog posts. It'll return snippets of that article that support the core thesis of this new blog post. And then it takes all of that information with the voice note
Mm.
that you've created it, and then runs it through 3 or 4 different prompts that put it together in your voice, in your style, and is almost ready to go. Just have to make sure that maybe some links didn't come through exactly the way, or if you want to use different links, you can use different links. But it creates a very comprehensive starting point for you to go in and say, okay, I'll be able to clean this up in 30 minutes, and then it's ready to go.
Oh, all right. Oh, I never heard about that before. And what about is that what about how much more productive could you see with uh like SEO writing? I think the most important demand when it's come to long form content is that um every organization would want a large number of content to be created in a short time, right? And is that to fill in more blog posts, and AI can help with that in a short time.
For sure. And I also don't want to. I love getting nuanced, and whenever we talk about SEO, I always ask, SEO for what? Because if the and like who are you competing against in order to get that search engine optimization for? Because if you're going after Forbes, you're not going to win. You're not going to get the first page on Google if you're going after the same topics as Forbes is. But if you're going after a smaller, unique audience, and you're trying to get leads that way, then sure, that can work. But I just wanted to premise that and say, not every blog needs to be SEO optimized. There are certain specifications that need to come into play before we can say, yes, this is worth trying, because mathematically it just doesn't make sense for everyone to be able to get on the first page of Google just by search engine optimizing their blog posts. However, it also depends on the transformation that your audience is looking for. If you don't know the transformation that your audience is looking for, then creating a blog post just for the sake of creating a blog post is not going to get you the results that you require. Sometimes it makes sense to create 3 blog posts a week that are short form, because it guides people through their week by some very practical way. For instance, if we were to create a new brand for fathers who are taking care of a newborn, and we know that every single day they're getting up early and then changing the diaper. What if we created a blog post, or a blog post that can be listened to via transcription of AI, to give them a brand new tip around how to be the best father you can be in these moments where he's changing the diaper. I mean, this is like a really weird example, but sure, then it'll be super simple to grab the phone, speaking to the Telegram bot on, for this week, we're going to go over this specific thing that a father can do to be a better, person or a better dad for their son, blah, 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 blah. And then it does the internet search. It looks for previous content, brings it in, transcribes it into a voice, and then bam, it's available. And now we know that that is actually going to help the audience get to the desired outcome, fulfill their aspirations and their goals of being a better father. Versus if, what the content that you're creating is already saturated, like everyone's already talking about XYZ thing, health and fitness, become better looking, get better abs, and all of these different things. If you're just talking at that broad of a level and you decide to put out a blog post once a week, sure, like it could help, maybe it could help, but there's a lot more that needs to go into that strategy in order for it to be a viable thing in terms of the energy that you're putting in. Now, if you're an organization like Mind Body Green that has a very, very, very strong SEO strategy, and the H1 needs to be like this, H2 needs to be like this, H3 needs to be like that. We need to hit these keywords. We're going to do a SERP research analysis to see exactly what the keywords are. We're going to copy other people's blog posts and then create our own form to create a similar style to that. That can also be done with AI. And then we can pump out 2 or 3 articles that way if we need to. So it really depends on the use case. It doesn't make sense to use AI to create content just for the sake of creating content. There always has to be a deeper strategy involved that gets the transformation we're looking for our ideal audience.
Okay, as you have mentioned the approach of every organization to AI, so we can dive deeper into that. And so, what approach should every team make? You mentioned before about defining system without AI first, and then to see where AI can be put into that, and how and I also saw one of your blog posts before, as you mentioned, the first draft would not be as we expected, but we need to have more patience. So with your experience, how long would the company or would any team should be put into this, or the approach that they could see the result and they iterate from that, and how could they measure the outcome, the outcome after, or how could they see the outcome as they want?
Again, it depends on the kind of organization that we're talking about here. But let's just assume that most of the people that are watching are solopreneurs who are looking at leveraging AI, and they're doing it themselves. There are two ways that people can go about this. The first way is to design their own systems and figure it out themselves. That is the more grinding it out approach that I've been doing, and I'm happy that I've been doing it because I have complete control over the system that I create for myself, right? And then I also own the system, but it takes a long time. If you don't have hours to spend on figuring it out, especially if you don't have a developing background like myself. I've taught myself everything over the last 2 years in terms of development and code manipulation, data science. So you can do that. And then what's likely going to happen is you're going to create a GPT that can do a certain thing, because that's the easiest, most efficient way to go from, I want this specific output, and there's this easy interface that I can give an input, and then I'm going to get a result. And then you can create a system around this. And then, okay, if I get this result, I don't like it, then I can tweak it like this, or I can put this over there, or I can edit it over there. And that's a very, very fine, great way to do it. And this is the example where, it takes a bit more time. It's super cheap because you're just doing it yourself, and you probably will be paying $20 a month for a GPT thing, a subscription, and then the quality will be decent. It'll be good enough. Like if it's not good enough, you're not going to do it. So there has to be at least some sort of an improvement for you to be able to implement it. Okay, so that's step one. You just figure it out yourself, and it'll take longer, but over time you'll get better. There's another approach where you pay somebody else to do it, right? And this could either be just like a once-off thing, or it could be a subscription, depending on the jobs that you need to get done. And some people are giving away or selling a training mechanism by which they give away all of their prompts, and say, or they set up a bot on relevance and they say, hey, this is how you set up this bot. This is the prompts that I'm going to use. This is what we recommend you do. We'll help you set it up, and then we're gone, right? And then that's going to be a bit more expensive, like maybe $1,200, $1,000 to be able to do that. But then you're on your own, and then you just figure it out from there. But it doesn't solve all the jobs. And then the other option is the subscription option, where as your organization evolves and as you continue to grow and as you continue to expand, the organization and the system that you design into this, well, the system that is designed with the help of other people can help you get there faster. And with the system that I've developed, you'll get there within a day. So we onboard the person, we get all the information that we need, and the next day it's up and running for them to be able to produce content, whether it be blog posts, LinkedIn posts, and also we're working on some lead getting strategies as well that link directly into the content that gets created. So 2 specific ways. One, you figure it out yourself and you keep playing and messing with it until you get the results that you want, and keep learning from other people. Second one is to pay for it. And then the more you pay, the quicker the implementation will be and the higher quality the implementation will be.
Sure. And actually, for MindPal, we also listen to our user every day and learn how we could help them implement the mindset of using AI in their organization as well. Just just not only in the use case of marketing, but also every other department as well. Like the approach is one
Right.
way to be open and think about it and learn some use case from others. Then, as you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, um, analyze more the system inside the company, and then yeah, and then we know how to fit AI into that. Actually, for MindPal, we also support every of our enterprise audience with the training and setup, because actually I think the gap between between amplifying AI into an organization um, and the lack of knowledge of AI is just a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of um, just like the know-how, essential know-how about how AI could contribute. And then we really
Mm-hmm.
try to communicate those to our more of our communities of user and their organization as well. So yeah, and on
That's
MindPal
great.
we try to do that. And actually on our platform we like over and over again the time we try to make the platform more accessible so that like everyone
Mm-hmm.
can come in and can get the ideas of how AI could fit into their use cases. And yeah,
Right.
so I want to ask more about like your projects. Why do you decide to have a focus on LinkedIn content? Because for an organization they will have multiple layer of content, right? So why do you
Mm-hmm.
decide to focus on LinkedIn? Is there
That's a
anything
great
interesting?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like to start small and start with a minimum viable audience. And I decided that LinkedIn was a perfect place to start with a minimum viable audience because copy is so important on LinkedIn. Most of the other platforms like TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, it's usually images, like reels, that
Mm,
are driving a lot of engagement interaction. And as we know, AI isn't quite at a point where we can create highly engaging reels from scratch. However, we can create very, very good content and copy, specifically copy, if we know what we're doing, if we know how to prompt, if we know what formatting to use, so on and so forth. And you can program that into a specific workflow. Now, the system that I've designed on the back end is not only can work for multiple different platforms. It's just right now optimized for LinkedIn because of that reason. Also, LinkedIn is also a visual platform, but it's a different kind of visual platform. And the kind of visuals that I can create with AI and with the APIs that I'm utilizing can get me results on LinkedIn versus on other platforms, it's likely to not get results. But by experimenting and playing with these on LinkedIn, I'm now getting insight and information into how those could work on other platforms like Instagram. So that's the primary reason. Also, there's a huge need for people to become expert copywriters, and quickly. I think there's a big struggle right now for how do you create high quality content on LinkedIn. And even if you use AI in terms of like prompting it, when you get the result back, you need to have a good content, a copy eye to understand, is this good? Is this not good? I don't really know. And some people just don't want to take the time to learn that, because they're seasoned experts in their field. They just don't think like copywriters. It's just not their skill. It would take them, 6 months to learn how to become an elite copywriter. Versus if you use a specific tool and it's designed a certain way, then it'll be really quickly, it'll be very fast to be able to get the desired result immediately. And then also LinkedIn has its very own specific strategy when it comes to growing an audience, right? We've all heard it before. You send 10 connection requests a day, comment on people's posts, comment on your own post, like respond to everyone who comments on your posts, so on and so forth. And if I could design a system that takes my ideal audience, makes it super easy to create content just for them, then that would be a huge value leg up on LinkedIn. And also people on LinkedIn have money to spend on tools like this because the whole reason they're on LinkedIn is to make money. So it checked all the boxes for me to go in and make something that's truly unique. And I haven't launched any other product. I haven't really been super active because I've just had my head buried now building out the system. And we have 6 beta testers right now that are using it, and we're getting user feedback from it. And then we'll be creating an official launch here in the next month or so.
Okay. Yeah, I really get it. So you want to focus more on like the professional who want to build personal branding on LinkedIn, and now you cut short the time. You want to help them cut short the time of learning copywriting. But also beside like um, creating content, they also need a content strategy, right? So your copilot will help with that like ideation and planning
Yes.
state.
Yeah. So one of the first things that we do with clients is go through a ideal client profile that AI helps us formulate and come together with, but based on real insights. So it's a form that needs to be filled out. You get real insights from real conversations that you've had and real insights that you generated from talking to people and interacting with people. And then we also create a write print, which is essentially a description and a program for how somebody's voice needs to be translated and created throughout the whole system. So by doing these 2 things, we have implemented the cornerstone of the LinkedIn content pilot, which is an audience-centered approach, right? Every idea that we feed into the system is going to get matched to a fear, aspiration, goal, or frustration or symptom that the audience has. And then we're going to return an idea that has all of the most important parts of a successful piece of content. It has a wow statement, like something that's really incredible. This is not a hook yet. The hook comes later, but it's a wow statement, like, oh my gosh, that's cool. You have a reward. So by the end of this piece of content, this is what they're going to learn. This is what they're going to get. And then you have the retention part of the content, which is the actual meat of how they're going to get the reward or what makes it special. And so immediately, if you just say an idea into the phone, it's going to save that idea. It's going to refine it using this model, match it with something that's specific to your audience, and then generate an outline of a piece of content based on what you said in your idea that is specifically designed to help them and help them get the transformation that they're looking for. And so this guesswork of who's my ideal audience again? I'm not sure what I need to say. Is this a good idea? How do I change this idea to actually match something that they care about? All of that is done in literally 15 seconds or less. And it's delivered to you right on the interface. In addition, what we'll be also implementing is a way to get leads within, well, I wouldn't say leads, but how to get profiles of people that are your ideal audience within the CRM that we've designed so that you can interact with them immediately, and people that are aligned with the kind of content that you want to produce. And so before, content creation was like, I put something out over here and then maybe it works. And then I put something out over there, maybe it works. But my ideal audience is actually in this lane over here. And so we're putting content all of these different places, and our brains just aren't super good at being consistent with the specific message that solves a specific problem and does it with high quality content over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that's exactly what you need to do on LinkedIn in order to do it well. You'll see all of the most successful brands, they say the same thing again and again and again, just in like slightly different ways. And they know exactly who their audience is. So in one day, we go from, we have your ideal audience, we have your right print, we know exactly how you're going to talk and how it's going to resonate with your audience. You can start giving ideas, and these ideas are going to be matched to your ideal audience that will then, you can then create a LinkedIn post or a blog post in order to then publish it to LinkedIn the very same day. So I create 2 posts a day on LinkedIn, and it takes me about an hour to get all of that done. And it's all aligned with my audience, interesting and fun.
You want also share that you would combine the marketing grid and genius and cheat into the copilot, and could you share more about that, like for some specific kind of content, for example, for yourself right now?
Yeah, so I can share my screen and give you a little bit of insight into what that looks like. Sure. All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I will add your screen into the state.
Okay, great.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Let
right
me
now
know.
you can
All
share.
right, cool. Sweet. So can you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
All right, great. So this is where all the insight posts that I create come from. And the insight posts can be divided into a few different things. But before we get into that, we'll just go to the content ideas. So over here is where you have an enhanced content idea. This came from an idea that I literally created with my voice. And I said, well, we can read one of them. Let's go over here. And then what it provides is a refined idea, which is a nonconformist post or a guide post. And I think we also have a listicle as well that it can draw from. And let's go in here and then see what the idea actually consists out of. So the ICT moderators, frustration with burnout and constant online engagement, draining energy and enthusiasm. Reward, simple actionable strategy. How 50 minutes of intentional sunset viewing can boost your energy levels. This is true. I actually do this. This is in my voice note. And then retain, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but it goes through a process that people can follow that will help them do this. And this was my original voice note. Today, when I was looking at the sunset, I realized that time spent relaxing at the end of the day is the best time to refresh for the next day. That's all that I said in my voice note. And then it came up with matching it with my ideal audience and what kind of content we can create in order to make it work. Now, I have a selection here where I can generate a LinkedIn post from it, or I can generate a blog post. So let's just generate a LinkedIn post. And we'll see. So once this runs, and then here's my my LinkedIn bot. My LinkedIn bot says, creating your LinkedIn post. And this is an example of when a post goes live, then it links it in my LinkedIn feed, and then it gives me the first comment that I can create or that I can paste in there to start engagement. So here are also ideas that I can get from my ICP assistant, which is my ideal client assistant. Looking is now available. Great. So I can go over here and select any suggested content ideas that I get from my assistant that knows my ICP really, really well because I programmed it to do that. But for now, let's go to this one. So this is the sunset example, and this is the graphic that it created for me. I've discovered a simple sunset ritual that helps me to beat burnout. Here's the post. A simple sunset ritual, beat digital burnout in 7 steps, even if you're glued to the screen all day. And of course, I can change this, right? I can come in here and edit this and say, actually, this doesn't feel good. This hook feels not quite up to par with what I'm looking for. And then here's the comment that I can also edit if I need to. It's linked specifically to the idea. And then I can say, all right, this is good to go. I'm going to place it for Sunday, and it's approved. And then it moves to my content schedule here that, is where I schedule all of my posts. And then the same thing can happen for a blog post as well. If I come in here through my ideas and, I want to create a blog post, I just hit blog post, and then the same process happens, and I can't schedule it because it's a blog post, but I can copy that information and then paste it into whatever platform I'm using to distribute my blog post. So that's the quick insight. I also have personal stories that I share, and I've designed the system to automatically link personal images with personal stories. So coding felt like an impossible dream until I used this
Is that the
formula to
content
build my first
from? Is it the content that you show? Is that generated or?
Yes.
You're right. Oh my.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this is all generated. But this is still in beta, so I'm not releasing this as a product quite yet. There are a few glitches that I still need to overcome. But that's why it's a great example of like, hey, if a person wants personal story posts and automatically have them linked to appropriate images, if they are in their database, then we can build something for them and then figure out what it is. So right now, what the AI did is decide that this post over here, the fear of public speaking paralyzed me until I discovered 3 simple techniques that transform my confidence. I can look at this and go, actually, these 3 techniques don't make any sense. I don't agree with them, and I've never used them. And I can delete the post immediately because it literally, it just landed here based on my personal story. So these are all based on a profile that I created for myself of accomplishments that I've had, fears that I have, frustrations that I have with my journey. And then it creates this post based on those real statements. But sometimes it might say something like, this is not right. And then I can just change it over here, right? Anyway, so it's also classified this as wellness and accomplished. So these are the emotion and the actions that it's attributed to this post. And I have an automation or an automation that helps classify any images that I put into a Google Drive folder, and it automatically classifies them as these things. So this image, I am happy, and it's a wellness scenario. Over here, I'm contemplative and I'm thinking, so on and so forth. And so I could select this image because I'm happy and adventurous, even though it doesn't match this. But if it does match it, it will, suggest that this image is for that post. I wasn't planning on sharing that, but you have me here, so that's where it's at. So yeah, that's how the system works, and that's how we align our ideas, our ideal audience with the different kinds of posts that we have over here, in order to create a transformation for my audience.
Oh yeah, so great. It's so amazing. Like everything and compact into a post set, and it can get done like with just a simple input of your voice. I really look forward to trying this product later. Yeah. Um, is there any further insights you wanna share about like creating content on LinkedIn and the effect that people would expect to see from AI and using AI in their daily life, in their daily work? Yeah.
Yeah, it really depends on the outcome that you want. I think if I would say anything, don't worry about AI or any tools or any products until you have a desired outcome that you're looking to accomplish. Yeah, and it depends for what reason. Some people say, don't worry about followers, don't worry about impressions. But for certain business models, those are very important metrics. They might seem like vanity metrics, but if you don't get any followers based on the content that you're producing, and you don't get impressions, then the top of your funnel isn't wide enough in order to be able to sell the thing that you want to sell, especially if it's a high ticket item, right? So understand what you want to get out of the platform first, and then look at what systems you can hire or what systems you can build in order to get those desired outcomes. Um, and so AI has so many different use cases and implications. I mean, if you just scroll through LinkedIn right now, you'll see AI is being used to get warm leads. It's being used to enrich different client profiles. It's being used to automatically send thousands of emails and personalize this and do that. And so it just gets overwhelming so fast. And so until you have a like, oh, I want this job to get done, and I'm
Mm,
curious about how AI can get this job done for me in a way that's cheaper, more efficient, and produces higher quality, or at least one of those, and then see if it's worth implementing it into that versus just like running around with our chickens with our heads cut off. Let's stop those two. Running around with our chickens with our head cut off, just like losing our minds every time a Sora thing is, comes out, and every time a new Luma project is released, or just take it easy. Like what is the thing? What is the job that you're doing that you need to get done right now? That's a pain, and then ask Claude, "Hey, I have this thing. How can AI help me solve this problem?" And if it seems viable, sure, give it a go, or like talk to somebody else that can help you implement the solution for what you need it for. It's I think we're past the hype cycle now, where it's like, AI is going to take everyone's jobs and it's going to blow up the world and it's going to do all these crazy things, and people realize actually implementing AI into an organization or into a workflow is literally 80% of the battle. And the organizations that can help people adopt AI faster, more efficiently, and get the desired outcome, to like solve the jobs that need to get done, are the ones that are going to win. But the ones that are just like throwing spaghetti at the wall because AI is cool and now we can do all these things, they're going to get lost in the mix, and because
mm,
what they're getting out of
yeah,
the system isn't getting the job done that they need to get done.
yeah. I also agree. It's it's just AI is not just to make it look cool, but it's it's just about thinking what need to be done and now how AI could help us get it done in a cheaper, more efficient, and in a higher quality. And in MindPal, we also help the motion like um whenever we have any work and we want to get it done fast, then just go to MyPal and create an agent about it, and then try specific use case for it, and then we could have something that work for that job. So um, yeah, we I think a lot of time right now AI is like we can be open to more possibilities that AI can help us with. But I think, yeah, as you mentioned, the first mindset is to decide what job need to be done and try using AI, tries like every possible way to customize the AI for to know like what work and what not works. And I think the mindset of like being open to AI to yeah is really important than just like looking at like, oh, I use AI and it's super cool, like it can do this, do that. But we bring them as like what you create here, LinkedIn content copilot, see it at our friend or as our like round 24-hour a assistant who can get us done the job much better. Then we start from that mindset, then we can amplify more output of AI. And the second thing I also agree is that we don't need to, as you mentioned, we don't need to worry about AI replace job. And actually, in MindPal, our clients, we also have some clients who don't replace employees, but um, by using AI, they amplify the results. So that's why their team
Like,
grow much like faster than before, like because
mm-hmm.
AI get done job very efficient, so that's why they can experience though that extraordinary growth in just a short time. So in that is the
Right.
use case that we can look at, like how AI help us to amplifying the output, amplifying out the growth that we expect. Yeah. Mm,
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah. Yeah. Do you want to share any more things about your projects, or yeah, for the audience to know? Then after this webinar, I can several resources as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you like what I'm saying is to the audience, it's not fluff. It's not the kind of, hey, here are 10 prompts that you can use to skyrocket your growth on LinkedIn, right? We all know that those are very clickbaity things. And if this kind of messaging resonates with you, where we're actually concerned about results and designing things that will um, get the job done that you need to get done, just shoot me a DM on LinkedIn. I'm still in sort of an experimental mode, so contracts are still very loose is not the right word because we still need deliverables and outcomes. But we're trying to figure out how this thing works, because we don't really know. It's a brand new way of working with AI, and it's going to take experimentation. It's going to take real difficult questions in order to figure out, like how are we going to move forward with this new technology in symbiosis by creating mechanical sympathy between the organization, the people in the organization, and the AI. So if that interests you, shoot me a DM on LinkedIn. We'd love to chat. And then, yeah, if you want to give LinkedIn Content Copilot a go, let me know as well. And next time we open up beta, the next beta cohort, you'll be in it.
Okay, I think we can thank you so much for the insights, and I think we can conclude and wrap up our webinar today. So we share a lot about
Sounds good.
how an organization from small to big can implement AI and the approach that they can take. Mm, I just saw the some insight from our audience, Rihan. Okay, and we also share about the capabilities as well as the limitation, as well as the right mindset to uh, limitation of AI, and move on to the right mindset of adopting AI. We need to be more open, and the the most important thing is to focus on how could we get done the work and how AI could fit in into that. And and thank you for also showing the system of your LinkedIn Content Copilot. And I think everyone would be really excited to see it. And yeah, thank you so much for spending time in this webinar. I after this webinar, I will also share some resources that everyone here would want to know from you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. It's a great time. Thanks for having me. Let me know if you guys want to do it again. And thanks to the audience as well for sticking around this long. We'll chat soon.
Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, I will turn off the webinar.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yes.
Cheers,
Wish
everybody.
you a great day. Have a good
Thanks.
day.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you so much.